Satya Dharma Reflection on May 31st, 2022. No grasping disregarding. What does it mean? That is uninvolved with the disregard. Beyond disregard, that means uninvolved with the disregard. Beyond disregard, beyond uninvolved constantly, so that the anupav will be penetrating throughout. Beyond brightening, beyond disregarding, beyond awakening. Go ahead, beyond disregarding. Have the power that penetrates through tremendously. Beyond disregarding, uninvolved with the disregard. This is the immigration, which is all about the mighty force of that which is beyond the mighty force itself. Don't be limited. This is not about being limited. Beyond disregarding, then it is not being limited to any certain extent that is definite. Disregard has to be no meanings in itself already. The awakening is beyond itself. Go ahead. This will not be limited with just awakening. It's not about grasping the awakening. Beyond disregarding, beyond awakening. Awakening doesn't grasp itself. The disregard doesn't grasp itself. This will be brightening, penetrating throughout continuously. This is tremendous force. Beyond disregard, continue onwards as such. Uninvolved with disregarding, this is beyond disregarding. Constantly so, which is not about anything within disregarding. Continue onwards as such. All about thoughts, thinking that, recalling that. This kind of thing doesn't work. Go on beyond disregarding, beyond awakening, beyond brightening, so that it will be completely not about grasping. Beyond awakening itself, beyond brightening itself, the disregard is beyond itself. Just give no meanings and significance to the disregard. Uninvolved with the disregard, give no significance to it. This is beyond disregarding, beyond awakening, beyond brightening. Continue in a way that is not about the disregard. Then automatically there will be the anupav or the mighty force that is continue onwards, penetrating onwards, throughout. uninvolved with awakening, uninvolved with disregarding, then there will be no limitation with just any state. The word beyond, which is not about non-grasping to any state. The disregard doesn't guard itself, it's not limited to itself. Awakening is not limited to itself, it doesn't grasp itself. The brightening is not limited to itself. Continue in the way that is beyond awakening and brightening, beyond disregarding. In a way without grasping, then awakening and brightening will be simultaneous, automatically. Beyond disregarding constantly. That's the disregard, or any state doesn't grasp itself. The mind doesn't grasp itself. Non-attachment doesn't grasp itself. Awakening doesn't grasp itself. The mind doesn't grasp itself. This is automatic brightening and awakening simultaneously. Be definite with the mighty force. Don't be obscure with the blessing or with the deliberate cut through. This is about helping. When it is beyond disregarding constantly, then it will not involve with disregarding automatically. When the non-human beings just arrive to the temple, they also would like to hear the reflection. They see the brightness, but they need to know where it comes from. At the moment, we cannot be stuck just within our own habits, our own thinking within the mind, within feelings and emotions. This is individual habits. Therefore, we have to awaken out of ourselves. But we have also to be awakened out beyond the awakening as well. It has to be awakening that is not about anything within itself, without significance to itself. To release out of oneself is not enough. It has to be released out with awakening and beyond awakening furthermore. Disregard has to be beyond itself as well. We have to learn the essence of cutting deluded knowing and the essence to help samsara cut through. Therefore, we need to listen. Sometimes they are already awakened out of themselves, but they are not yet awakened out from the awakening. So it has to be beyond awakening, which is awakening that doesn't grasp itself. Then the brightness will be without limits. That's why we have to listen, constantly listening to the reflection, because there are some tiny bits of angles, and it has to be clicked by just listening to be clearer. So beyond disregarding constantly, so that disregarding will not be falling into stillness or indifference or sluggishness. So the disregard will be without limits. Beyond disregarding, that means the disregard doesn't grasp itself. It's not about grasping. Awakening beyond awakening, that means awakening doesn't grasp itself. Go on constantly, powerfully, through this essence, through this mighty force. Constantly go beyond disregarding, beyond awakening. When the mind doesn't fixate and give no significance and meaning to anything, this is called boundlessness. Beyond no, beyond disregarding. Nothing is within the no itself. That's beyond no. The utilizing of the mind is just always there, carelessly, always off-sided. Beyond disregarding, then the Anupap will be brightening throughout from the awakening and the brightening. The Anicca always discards itself at all times. So don't regret to keep it. Don't keep any states to oneself. Beyond disregard, beyond awakening, beyond disregarding, uninvolved with it. Continue in the way that is beyond disregarding. Brighten out, shine out. Beyond disregarding, with furthermore, that is no significance and meanings to the disregard itself, then automatically the Anupap of awakening and brightening will be there. If enabled awakening and brightening, then it's possible to be beyond disregarding. It will be beyond the uninvolved, enabled to be beyond the disregard. Beyond know itself right away. Beyond know itself. No to the know itself right away. No significance and meanings to know itself right away. This is not just about releasing out of oneself, it's releasing from the release itself as well. This is not just about awakening out from something, it's awakening out from the awakening itself. The disregard is not itself. No significance and meanings to the disregard itself. This is beyond disregarding. Shine out without limits. Beyond disregarding itself, beyond disregarding itself, beyond non-attachment itself, this will be brightening, penetrating through all and everything. Beyond know itself, don't be stuck with just know. With just it isn't it. No is not know itself. It isn't it is not itself. So don't be stuck with just that. Don't be fixated with just know. Beyond know itself. No is not know itself. Continue in the way that is beyond disregarding. That is tremendous Anupap. Penetrating through awakening, which is beyond the awakening itself. Whatsoever is not about grasping anyway. Disregard doesn't grasp itself. It's not about grasping itself. Therefore, just go beyond disregarding. Don't sink in it. Don't sink in disregard, because it's going to be fixated to stillness, indifference, equanimity, contemplation, special insight. It's going to be fixated to everything. So go beyond the non-attachment, go beyond uninvolvement. This will penetrate through without limits automatically.
ยิ่งกว่าไหม้เองเลย
beyond
แช่ได้อย่าแช่เอาอย่าแช่
don't sink in to gain, to obtain, to grasp anything. Don't be limited and sink in.
ยิ่งกว่าไหม้หน่อย
Beyond disregarding furthermore. Don't sink in the disregard because that's going to lead towards stillness and indifference. Don't be engrossed with hypnotizing the anatta and anicca. Stillness and indifference is hypnotizing the anicca and anatta. There's only just Vedana, exhaustion. Don't be possessive with stillness or indifference. Don't regret it. Uninvolved even within the uninvolved itself. No is not even no itself. Don't follow walking. Don't walk to follow anything or anyone. So how to do that? Just continue without giving significance and meanings to this regard. It's not at walking. This is not only about walking here or there. Beyond disregarding, beyond no, beyond non-attachment. Don't be stuck with just reserved manners. Don't be limited with just any certain extent. Beyond disregarding, beyond non-attachment, which is not giving significance and meanings to non-attachment itself. It's not about anything within the non-attachment itself. This is shining out without limits already. Bless, continue to bless. Give no significance and meanings and involvement to disregard or no constantly. Uninvolved within the uninvolvement itself constantly. Beyond no itself constantly. Beyond the disregard itself constantly. This will be automatic shining out. This is Sunyata Nibbana, purifying samsara. Samabat Sunyata is in the form of purification through the emptiness. This is Samabat Sunyata, is not in the way of maintaining it. Beyond disregarding constantly, this will penetrating through to help one another automatically, not maintaining, not sinking, not being drowsing, not withering, not crystallizing. Beyond disregarding, it will not be limited with itself. It will not be limited to disregard. Beyond disregard, it will not be limited to itself. That means it's shining out of itself. Shining out. In other words, it's called awakening out, brighten out. Awakening beyond awakening, brightening beyond brightening. This is no significance and meanings and involvement to the awakening and the brightening. It is beyond awakening and brightening itself. Everything is beyond itself. This will be the anupap that penetrating through to help one another automatically. This is the power to help one another. To use the mind in this way and that way is not the blessing. Beyond disregarding itself, furthermore, that is shining out, penetrating throughout already. It's not about grasping any states, any conditions, not about grasping the mind, not about grasping being still or not, indifferent or not. Beyond disregarding, furthermore. That is discarding the disregard, not being limited to just disregarding, brighten out right away. That is the anupap. That is called the anupap, powerfully proceeding itself. Beyond awakening itself, this is not maintaining awakening, not sinking in the awakening. This is not about someone who is awakened. The awakening purifies itself. Beyond awakening itself. This is proceeding towards that which is not about disregarding, uninvolved with disregarding altogether. Then the awakening and brightening will be beyond itself automatically. Be clear with it. Don't be obscured, because the blessing will be obscured as well. Don't know what is what to bless. Is obscured. To use something for blessing that is not helping through purification. The purification of extinction and emptiness is not about using something through the mind to bless. Therefore, one must conclude well. The conclusion that doesn't grasp itself. Just like disregarding is not about itself. Beyond disregarding constantly, beyond non-attachment constantly. Don't be engrossed with just something, because one will just be stuck with that on and on. Continue in the way that is beyond everything, so that the senses and sense perceptions will be balanced, opening out balancedly, opening in the way that doesn't grasp anything. Then the opening will be in a way of purifying through the emptiness right away. Why this has to be beyond disregarding? Because the habits of concentration, contemplation, and concentration, the disregard will be limited to itself. Therefore, one has to be beyond disregarding, disregarding beyond limits. Disregard is not stuck with itself. It has no limits. The disregard is not itself. The disregard is not relevant to itself. Constantly beyond disregarding. This will be the essence that doesn't grasp itself. Disregard doesn't grasp itself. That is the true essence of disregarding. Well, to be beyond the uninvolved or the disregard, don't be limited with just that. The disregard is not itself constantly. The uninvolved is not given significance and meaning to itself constantly. Paul mentioned that we need a big road to walk on. No doubt about it. In the ancient time, the
พรรษา
Buddhas
แปลว่าฤดูฝน เข้า
uh,
หน้าฝนก็แปลว่าพรรษานั่นคือฤดูฝน
give
พอเข้าหน้าฝนเนี่ยพืช
the
ทางเก
time
ษตรของชาว
for
บ้านมันเยอะก็ปลูกไว้ตามแม่
Vatsa
ลำธาร
rain retreat because in the fields there are uh,
พระเยอะ
plants that are
ไปแบบนี้
in
ก็
the
ไป
fields
ก็ทั่วไปย่ำ
and
ไร่ย่ำ
everyone
นา
just walked
เจ๊งหม
all
ดเลย
over. It's not okay to step on all those plants. But at the time being is different. However, we could step on all the tiny animals also.
เป็นช่วงพืช
But rainy season is the time of plants growing. To step on them is gonna be a damage. Therefore,
เพราะว่า
the time of rain
ลัดทุ่ง
retreat,
ลัดท่าไปเรื่อยลัดนาไป
we
เรื่อย
have
ลัด
to
ไร่ลัดฝนไปเรื่อย
stay mostly in the one place. That was in
ยุ
the
คปัจจุบัน
ancient
เนี่ยมันไม่
time.
มีทุ่งนา
But at the moment,
อยู่แล้ว
there are
โลม
roads.
ปฏิโลม
This is like a compromising. Continue beyond the disregard. Automatically, there will be the brightness shining through, brightening in the way that is purifying, awakening in the way that is purifying. Everything is to be used to purify,
ล้างกรรมล้างวิบาก
purifying karma and karmic difficulties.
อ้าวรับอาหารได้แล้วนะหมดหรือยัง
Beyond Nong, beyond disregard. It's not about grasping, so don't be stuck with just grabbing fully or not. Conclude through the essence right away. This is not about grasp, enable to grasp anything or not. The disregard is not itself continuously, so that one will enable to purify through the extinction. Beyond the disregard constantly. This will purify the grasping to disregard, which is overlaying the disregard itself. Beyond the disregard itself, beyond the unevoked itself, is not about attempting to get in or get out of anything. One has to still confront with the past karma, which is all about meditation. Don't try to get out of the mind, of any states of mind or Dhamma. Proceed in the way that is constantly uninvolved with itself, without rush, because whenever one rushes for anything, there's a grasping mind that overlays. The conclusion itself is not the conclusion itself. It is to use for purification. Therefore, everything is without flaw because it's not about grasping. The disregard doesn't grasp itself. Any state doesn't grasp itself. It's not about grasping any state or the disregard or the non-attachment. Let's make a conclusion towards the essence of non-grasping from itself. If the grasping mind overlays, one will just feel uneasy within. This is not about gaining or losing anything. It's not about gaining or losing anything. No is not even no itself. The conclusion that discards itself. There is no rush. because it's gonna be a waste, because the grasping mind is overlays. It is the samudaya that overlays.
หนีไม่พ้นตัว
This is impossible to escape from the grasping mind. Constantly make a conclusion towards ending.
หลักการ
Otherwise, one will just be stagnated in the sinking mind, sinking in any state of Dharma.
ไม่ก็ไม่ใช่ไม่เอง
If disregard, then give no significance and meanings to itself.
จะได้ไม่เป็นการสรุปเอา
Then it will not be a conclusion that
ไม่
grasps
ใช่ก็
itself.
ไม่ใช่ตัวไม่ใช่เอง
No, then give no significance to know itself.
จะได้ไม่ใช่การสรุป
Then it will not be the conclusion to grasp itself. This is the conclusion for purification, for self-purification. Constantly so. Purify the titi, purify the grasping within, knowing, seeing, looking, within insight, within the states. Continue in such a way.